Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm about to put you onto some spiritual game. I'm about to talk about the veil that's cloaking between the heavens and the earth, and I'm gonna explain that to you. But before I do, don't forget to like and share this with your family, your friends, your pastors, and your preachers, and to understand it together, because not everybody's going to understand what wasn't taught. So that's why the governments are trying to push a lack of education, because you can't understand what's not explained and what's not shared because it's held back, right? So education into a variety of different aspects that make the backbone of everything its whole is very important, because every story has a truth to it, and it sprouts over time, because that's how beautiful time is, and that's how diverse spirituality can become. So that's why you see stuff like people who claim to be spiritual through biblical teachings, through wisdom. It makes you spiritual, but so is understanding how to read tarot cards and how to understand reading your astrology. You know what I mean? I'm a Pisces. It's important to understand the different characteristics, because in a spiritual way, it's like kind of understanding the blueprints for how a person or individual is going to be. And yes, it may not be akin to everybody, and everybody, even people born in opposite months, may even be in likeness to that. It's not a foolproof plan, but more or less it's something essential to give your basics on, right? So with that being said, I want to share that the veil between worlds, man. What is it? If we know that in heaven, not only are there angels in many forms of different appearances, but we understand that they're not just angels, that they're formed energy. Now, formed energy is what gives an image its image, and it's giving consciousness is what gives it the ability to understand and to figure out, like, mental problems or problems of any sort. So with that being said, before the world or anything physical was created, we're all a byproduct of energy that was compacted and then exploded, right? And then that's what created the planets and formed the stars and the galaxies. So we're all byproducts of energy. So within our body, we have what's known as bioelectric energy, and without this energy, our bodies would decompose, because this energy is essential to our physical growth. It's essential to anything about us that lets us grow in any type of way. Our teeth, our nails, our hair, you know what I mean, our toes, our body. Without this energy, our body wouldn't grow. So we can say, we can use the law of energy, and that states that energy cannot be destroyed nor created, only transferred from one form to another. So we're saying after our body physically decays, scientifically, our energy is still going to be there somewhere. So with that being said, we're all forms of energy. We're just in the flesh. What now with that being said, what is the veil? What is the cloak that everybody's talk about, that we probably heard about a time or two? But the cloak is wisdom and lack of wisdom, right? Because we know heaven is wisdom. Why is it wisdom? Because you get good perception, you get understanding, and the appropriation of hardships, trials, and tribulations, to understand that certain situations and life events may change a person's perspective to being somebody better than they couldn't have been without the unveiling of something true. Even though it may have been happy or traumatic, there's always something that we could learn, whether it was the influence of anything supernatural or just life happening, right? So with that being said, got to understand that if heaven is wisdom, and when Satan and his angels fell to earth, then we know that the opposite of wisdom fell to earth, because we're speaking about energy, and we're speaking about angels and gods. So we're talking about energy, like cosmic, seismic, like energy. We're talking about humongous, like energy that has the ability to be anywhere, any form, any shape. We're talking about energy that can cover this whole world. And so with that being said, if Satan is energy, not just his image, but if he's energy and he fell down to earth with his angels, then his state of mind is the opposite of wisdom. The opposite of wisdom is lust, fornication, greed, obesity, chasing materialism over somebody else, being selfish, you know what I mean, being murderous, bearing false testimony. There's so many different things that come with a negative or an opposite, or the opposite of holy's mentality, right? There's so much difficulty, but it's not just that. How do we get to a point to where a person becomes selfish? Well, you take the minds of everybody around him and make life in such a way and that people just become selfish. Now, how do we do that? Well, we control society, we control the imagery and the knowledge that's output of it, right? We control what is truth as far as spirituality. And what is truth? Well, if we know that the true Israelites are indigenous and resided in the desert, then there has to be something truth about the desert, because that's where it started at, right? That's common sense too, if you think about it. Like, we would all start from the desert. What can the desert teach us? I'll tell you firsthand that the desert can teach true spirituality, true understanding. With true lifestyle comes true knowledge within that true aspect of spirituality. With that being said, man, at night, it ain't hard to understand or hard to believe that there's spirits out here wandering these lands, unseen to the eye or unseen visible to the eye, but there really are spirits here. There really are. And the lifestyle allows me to spend time in solitude, to find myself, because I'm not surrounded by females, by fast cars, by the thoughts of money, by the thoughts of having drugs or anything. I'm just by myself, figuring how I can make myself better. So the desert is an essential part for that too, because I'm not clouded by temptation. So if we're talking about two different lifestyles, then we're talking about two different forms of attack, right? Two different forms of morality or perception. Now, if we're living different types of lifestyle that can bring about different perceptions, and one of them is truth and one of them is not. So we got to conclude that the desert, where our Father, Creator Elohim resides, He also resides in Araboth. So it makes sense that His children reside in Araboth, right? Now, if you don't know the definition of Araboth, please look it up. Araboth. And obviously His children are going to reside where the Father resides, because the angels all surround our Father because they want to be close by Him, because they love Him. And so the true children of the Most High love Him, so they get by Him. And so if that means living in the desert to be closer and to feel His presence more, then that means living in the desert. That means accepting the hardships. That means understanding that all these animals out here help humanity proceed forward in its evolution through both physicality and spirituality. And so to understand that every single plant and animal, big and small, on the land or in the sea, no, doesn't matter if you know it or not, all of them are conscious, all of them have a soul, all of them have the ability to understand its situations. That's why they rely on instinct. They know, because they can pass down knowledge, spiritual knowledge. That's why they rely on instinct. It's not just they automatically know, but it's their soul that knows, because it's their soul that has been, they speak with each other and they reincarnate into fishes, animals, certain things, so it'd be easier, because the more life you know, the more of it you may want. And so certain animals and things have to stuck being certain animals and certain things, because it would be torturous for them to make them anything, and then them not having the ability to, it's just gonna bother their souls, you know what I mean? So you got to be grateful for life, and understand too that life is eternal. Spiritual spirits are eternal. So the veil between the worlds, everybody, is wisdom and lack of wisdom. And the more wisdom you get to living in truth, such as the desert, then it's true.